San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners to order. It is now 6:30. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ryring,
Yes.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
President Chancarelli,
Present.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Ratush.
Present.
Great, we're all here, we have a quorum, and so I'm going to open it up to public comment. Number one, and this is for members of the public to come and address the board on items that are not on the agenda. And I do have one public comment from James Lee. If you'd like to make public comment, please go to the speaker card and give it to Debbie.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is James Lee from Redwood City. This is my first board meeting that I'm attending after the election, so I want to congratulate Commissioners Lorenz and Ryring for their success in the election, with vote totals rivaling only Commissioner Brennan's from 2016 and 2012. To that note, I want to express my hope to this commission that with a new board majority that respects the environment, that respects science around climate change, that more will be done to take action around flooding and public safety concerns with extreme tide events over at Oyster Point Marina. As some of you may well know, the king tides are happening this weekend. It would be a good opportunity to go out and see what actually happens out at Oyster Point Marina. I know the county's doing an event out here on the coast, or out at Half Moon Bay at Pillar Point Harbor as well. Also, I hope that this commission revisits the MOU that was pushed through at the end of last year by the previous board majority. The MOU ties the county and county taxpayers to a long-term commitment to the city of South San Francisco for a marina it does not own, and it commits all of the entire county to subsidizing an asset that really this city should be running on its own. I hope that MOU is revisited, and policy-wise, I hope that this commission directs staff to look into tightening up some of the policies around board meetings, such as the previous practice of the previous board majority where absent members of the commission were able to Skype in. I previously commented at a different board meeting about how there needs to be clarification around district policy, around that kind of attendance at a board meeting and whether that's really allowable for a quorum. These are matters that this commission, hopefully, I hope that you will all look into moving forward. And again, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing all the improvements you make in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If there are none, I'll close public comment right now and go to commissioner comments. Sabrina?
Thanks. So I wanted to congratulate President Chancarelli for her recent appointment, I don't know if appointment's the right word, to become president of the Menlo Park Fire Protection District. So I just wanted to congratulate you for being the new president of the board.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
I'd just like to welcome Nancy Ryring to the first meeting in South San Francisco. Happy to have you here. I'd also like to say that I'm an invited speaker at the county's climate change meeting that's happening at Surfers Beach. It starts at 8 o'clock on Saturday. I'll be talking about what the Harbor District's been doing with respect to climate change and sea level rise.
Tom?
I too would like to take a moment to welcome Nancy to the board. Look forward to working with another fellow sailor and water person. Speaking of water, the Harbor District certainly has its hands full with this storm. I know there's plenty going on at Pillar Point Harbor. I don't doubt many of the other harbors up and down the coast are feeling the effects of this storm as well. So my hat's off to the crew that has to put up with all the various problems caused by the wind and the waves. I've already just gotten a text about a boat that's missing a chunk of its bow right now in the harbor.
I'd just like to say I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Commissioners, gonna just point out, apparently it's hard to hear, so make sure your microphone is turned on, as mine is not there. So make sure the green light is on when you're speaking, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. So we'll go to item C, which is the consent calendar, and I understand that items 1, 2, 3, and 4 are being pulled. Any other items that need to be pulled? If not, then is there a motion to approve the consent calendar for items 5 and 6?
I move that we approve 5 and 6.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
President Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Raring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
The motion carries, and so, because some of these other items have been pulled off, and they are pertinent to the business for Harbor District, I'm gonna just move these up really quickly, there are only 4. One is bills and claims, so I think Sabrina, you pulled off 1 and 4, and Ed pulled off 2 and 3, is that right? Okay. So, okay, take it away for number 1.
Okay, so for bills and claims, the reason I pulled it is I just wanted to mention that for our past month, we're at $28,000 for general counsel. And there is in our board packet, if the public is interested, a spreadsheet that indicates what our legal fees are for all of our different attorneys. If anybody is interested, you can see what we've paid over the years and, sort of the year-to-date amount. Thank you.
Any other comment on item 1?
Two and 4, 2 and 3.
Okay.
And that is that I was not at those meetings, so I can't prove that.
Okay.
I was also absent from those 2 meetings.
Well, let's finish item 1 first. So are there any other comments or discussion notes for item 1, which is the bills and claims?
I would move that we approve bills and claims in the amount of $517,831.18.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
President Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Raring.
Aye. The motion carries. And so we'll get to, so basically items 2 and 3, y'all are abstaining, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, that was the reason for the pulling of those items from the consent calendar. But if Nancy, you and Tom have any comments on this?
I would need to abstain as well.
Okay,
Isn't that correct?
well, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can. I mean, because you weren't here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
You're not, yeah, no.
So what do we do?
So motion to approve 2 and 3 with the remaining commissioners.
Actually, 3, okay. How does that work?
So-
We're not gonna pass.
There is no legal obligation that one be at a meeting in order to approve the minutes of the meeting. However, no one is required to approve the minutes, and sometimes people don't feel like doing that when they weren't there, so it seems like you have 2 choices. Either a majority of the board can vote on the minutes whether or not they were there, and that's perfectly legal, or the motion will not pass.
Okay. Well, there is a motion, Tom, so I'll second it. If there's no other discussion, we'll take a vote.
Commissioner Brennan,
Abstain.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Abstain.
Commissioner Raring,
Abstain.
President Chancarelli.
Aye.
Can I just ask council what we do in a case like this?
The
Are they
minutes are not approved.
Yeah, they're not approved.
So
because
they'll,
it's not approved.
will they always be in draft form on the website, or?
They are not approved. Don't know what else, what you deal with them. If you want to put them on the website or not is not a legal issue, but the minutes have not
I
been
think
approved.
we should put them on as a draft.
I believe they're on the website, and I would support that they should be on the website.
As a draft for
Yeah.
Yeah, I
perpetuity.
don't know what else we would do,
Yeah.
and that makes sense.
Okay, so item 4, I know this is information
I pulled this item is just because we have quite a schedule in front of us for the budget process, and I know that we have a new commissioner, and so while some of us are familiar with that process, I thought it might be nice to have Anita just give us a quick rundown on the dates so we can start to kind of mentally get that in mind. And I don't think we need a big explanation, but just sort of an idea about the schedule.
Okay. Yeah, actually, Julie is going to be the Director of Administrative Services starting next month. So she put together this budget calendar with my assistants. I gave her a draft of last year's. We're basically doing what we're required to do. We bring the calendar to you in January. In February, we will bring the mid-year budget review information for this current year. And then in March, at the March board meeting, is when we bring the first look for the proposed budget for next fiscal year, which starts on July 1st. So it would bring the very preliminary information as far as what we can expect for the following year, and that's when we would be asking for input from all of you. And then in April, we adopt a preliminary budget, and we provide a legal notice stating that the preliminary budget has been adopted on April 25th, and that the final budget will be adopted June 19th. And these are all dates that are consistent with the board meetings. And then we continue to get more feedback from all of you regarding the preliminary budget. In May, we go through and review the adopted preliminary budget and make any adjustments. And then in June, on June 19th, we adopt the final budget. And then the deadline to report the final budget to the County Board of Supervisors is July 1st. So that's basically our calendar.
Yeah, thank you for that, appreciate it.
Any other comments on item 4? If not, it's just for informational purposes, and thank you, Anita, for the report and for the rundown for Nancy, which is the budget calendar. So now we are on to the regular discussion items, starting with item number 7, which is the board organization, election of officers.
So, I
And
mean,
for public comment.
we do, wanna do that?
Yeah, sure, sorry. Please, and anyone who'd like to make a public comment, you do so by filling out a card and giving this to Debbie.
Good evening, Commissioners. So in this item, you're going to be deciding who the board officers are going to be for the coming year. I just wanted to strongly urge you to support Commissioner Sabrina Brennan to be nominated and voted in as president for 2019 of the San Mateo County Harbor District. I've known Sabrina since before she was elected onto this board 6 years ago, or almost 7 now. And I know from knowing her that long that she created change in this district before she even got on the board. The reason why meetings are videotaped now is because of her before she got elected. The reason why you have a new district office that saves the district money over in El Granada is because of her, as well as Commissioner Matoush. She started the Beach Replenishment Committee as a citizens committee, which got taken on by the Harbor District and is now expanded into the Climate Change Resilience Committee. And she's been in local, regional, national, and international news for her advocacy for women surfers and women's equal pay at the Maverick Surf Contest, which this district permits. And she was the only one during the entire history of that convoluted permitting process to raise questions about the practices of Jeff Clark, of cartel, and as we know from news reports and from the current ownership of the contest, that she was proven right on many occasions. I think that the district could have no better face for the coming year than Commissioner Brennan, and I hope you'll support her as president. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't have any other public comment cards, but if you would still like to do so while we're having a discussion, you may bring up a public comment card for public comment. So I guess I need to be asking for nominations unless you have something that you want to talk about, John, and then you want to staff.
No, I don't, I do not.
Okay, great. So let's just open it up for nominations.
So I nominate Commissioner Brennan to serve as President of the Board of Commissioners until the first meeting of January 2020.
I can nominate Commissioner Shane Corrali to serve as president until January 2020. She's been a very calming influence in trying to bring people together and work together, and I think we made good progress along those lines.
So one thing we might want to do is inform the board on how this nomination process works.
Traditionally, there's one nomination, we take it to a vote, and then there's the second. Then there's another opportunity for nominations if there aren't enough votes. So,
Well, I think, I mean, either way, we can do it either way. It doesn't matter to me, but
But we should
since we're
make
opening it
clear.
up to nominations, I mean, I think we can vote and whoever gets the most number of votes first that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how, either way, it's gonna turn out like that, right?
Right.
No matter what process you do.
President Crowley?
Yes.
I believe general counsel can advise us a little bit on process.
I would suggest you have a nomination, and it's like a motion. You need a second, and then you vote, and if that passes, you have a new president. And if it doesn't pass, someone else may make a nomination for a different person. So, that's how, it's usually, that would be the normal way of electing an officer and the way this district has operated in the
I
past.
think people, other different agencies do it differently. Some people don't even want the not the second, so let's just take our legal counsel's advice and start over.
So I nominate Commissioner Brennan to serve as President of the Board of Commissioners until the first meeting of January 2020.
Is there a second?
I second that nomination.
Okay.
So now,
Take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Ryring,
Yes.
Commissioner Brennan,
yes.
President Shane Corrali,
No?
Commissioner Lorenz,
yes.
Commissioner Mathush.
No.
Okay, the motion carries. Congratulations, Sabrina. So I'm gonna hand this to you to do
Can
the
we-
other officer. We
can
can
we
switch,
just-
yeah,
that'd be great.
whatever. Whatever's easier. Make sure. So Sabrina.
Okay, thank you.
You might want to move your name flags.
That
too.
doesn't, pointed out. Because you're used to your name. So, I appreciate the support, and haven't done this in a while, so if I make a mistake, please jump in and let me know. So next up, I would like to, thank you. I would like to open the floor to nominations for the vice president.
I'd like to nominate Ed Lorenz for vice president.
And I would second that.
Ready for a vote?
Yes.
President Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Shane Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
The motion carries. I'm hearing like a kind of a tinny weird sound over here with the microphone. Did you notice that?
But I think it's the system in general.
If there's a problem, it might be this mic. I don't know. Just letting you guys
It's
know.
hard to hear out here.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
We're not hearing any of your mics, so
Are the
if you
green
would all
lights
speak
on?
up, that'd be great.
Really? Because my green light.
They're all on. Yeah.
I don't know if we,
Can you raise it closer to your?
he's
I was hearing.
back there now.
Yeah, this is the mic is on.
So I think we're gonna have to just project our voices louder tonight.
Yeah.
You can do that. So if the audience can't hear us, if you could, kind of give us a wave or something, let us know. We'll try to speak louder. Okay, so next we have, I'm opening the floor for nominations for the secretary of the board. And I would actually like to make a nomination, and nominate Nancy Raring, for board secretary.
Second.
And Debbie just stepped out. So Debbie, we've got a nomination and a second, and we're ready for roll call.
I'm sorry, let me back up. Can you catch me up? I'm sorry
Oh,
for the.
absolutely, yeah.
Thank
So
you.
for secretary, I nominated Nancy Raring, and she received a second from Commissioner Lorenz.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Ryring,
I'll trust that you believe I'm qualified, yes.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
President Brennan.
Aye. Next, we have treasurer. I'm opening the floor for nominations for the board treasurer.
I'd like to nominate Tom Matoush, who's the current treasurer. I think he's done a good job. He's been very active in terms of making sure that he's reviewing the bills and claims. And he does his job, like he's going over there in the Harbor District's office and signing the checks that need to be signed, and conferring if needed.
I'll second that.
Okay, Commissioner Ryring,
Yeah, aye.
President Brennan,
No.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
So that wraps it up.
Can I just point out, we do need to have a representative to serve as an alternate to LAFCO.
Oh, that's right, I forgot, thank you. So I'm opening the floor for nominations for alternate to LAFCO, and I'd actually like to nominate Nancy Raring.
Oh, I'm very interested in that.
I second.
Okay, Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
President Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
And at this time, let's see, it's 5 to 7. I would like to take a 5-minute break, and then we are going to adjourn to a special meeting, closed session.
So are you planning on coming back after your break and then adjourning, or is you adjourning now? The only reason I ask is that just to make sure everything is done cleanly, I think you need a motion to adjourn, not just a declaration that you're adjourning. So I would suggest you take a break, and then at 7 o'clock, when the special meeting was agendized, you could make a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Why don't we just do it now?
That's fine too.
Okay, so I move that we adjourn.
Can you do that before 7
I'll second that if we're moving to adjourn for the special.
Well, I'm moving to adjourn to take a 5-minute break, and then we're gonna have a special meeting. Do I need to say all that?
So if you move to adjourn,
Yeah.
you are moving to end this entire meeting. So I would say, if, as I understand you correctly, you want to adjourn the regular meeting until after the special meeting is over, you should have the motion be that.
So I would move to adjourn that we take a break and then come back for the rest of the regular meeting. So we're adjourning the special meeting, and then we're coming back for the rest of the regular meeting. Is that fair enough?
I think the intent is pretty clear.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Do you want me to vote? I think so. Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
President Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
Opening the special meeting, we have a roll call.
Okay, very loud now. Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
President Brennan,
Here?
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz, Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
Now I'm announcing that we are going to adjourn to closed session. But before I do, I want to check and see if there's any public closed session is completed. Thanks. We're back from closed session, and we'd like to report out on our special meeting closed session. If I get anything out of order, somebody please let me know. It's a little confusing here. So first of all, I wanted to let everyone know that the board just decided to hire a new district general counsel. And I would like to thank our counsel, Stephen Miller, for his service and all of his hard work over the years and dedication to the district. So thank you for everything that you've done for us. I really appreciate it. I know this has not been an easy gig, and wish you absolutely the best.
Thank you. So I'd like to say two things quickly, if I might. First is, you need to report out the actual vote and who voted in what direction as a roll call. So, and then I have one other thing I'd like to say, but you do need to report that vote out, the details of the vote.
Okay, so to report the vote, there were 3 yes votes, so that, and report the individuals, correct?
Correct.
So Commissioner Lorenz made a motion, and the motion was seconded by Commissioner Raring, and there were 3 votes, Lorenz, Raring, and Brennan. There was an, those were aye votes. There was an abstention. Commissioner Mateo abstained, and there was a no vote, and that was Commissioner Chankarali.
Can I just add one?
Sure.
And so my no vote has nothing to do with the quality of legal counsel. It was mainly because of the process, that there was no real general process here, and I felt like we only had one choice. And that was a big problem for me. And I stated that last week when we had a special meeting. But again, I want to reiterate that it has nothing to do with the quality of the firm. I just don't know. That's the part of the problem. Thank you.
And the second thing I just wanted to say very briefly, Hanson Bridget has been the general counsel of the district for almost 5 years. Our client, as you know, has always been the district, not any individual board member or staff member, and I think that's evidenced by the fact that we've been general counsel through at least 3 shifts in board membership and majority, and serving now with the 5th general manager in our 4 and some years that we've been here. My whole team at Hanson Bridget, in all of the many disciplines that have served the district, have always done our best to serve the district well, protect its interests, and most importantly, I think, help create the best legal framework to carry out the policy directions of the district as decided by a majority of the board. Majority is now determined to engage a new general counsel. I totally get it. On behalf of my whole team, pledge our support and cooperation in transition to make it as smooth and efficient as possible for the district. And congratulations to my successor, and we'll certainly support him and help him succeed and do the best he can. So thank you.
Thank you.
I should note, Bill's sitting right here. He says at the direction of you, it's a little unclear to me whether your decision to engage him, what the timing of that is.
So to clarify, the vote was effective immediately.
Oh, well, so would you like me to leave?
We're not asking you to leave. That's your decision, whether or not you want to leave, but we would be happy to have you finish out the meeting and any services going forward. With the transition, the district would, of course, pay.
Well, I'm not talking about that, but I mean, the district should have one general counsel. So what you're saying is that Bill is now your general counsel effective this second?
Effective immediately.
Very good. I think it's best for the district to have one general counsel, so I'll be happy to hand the baton over to him.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your service. next, I'd like to reorder a few things. We are going to take item 10 next, which is committees, and we're doing that because traditionally committee assignments follow the rotation of officers at our first meeting of the year. And the board president makes committee assignments. So, that is item, item 10 in your packet. And you'll see in item 10, there's a spreadsheet which indicates, includes the current committees and gives room for some additional committees. So I'm just going to start from the top here and talk about our ad hoc committees. So the search committee, which is going to be an ad hoc committee looking at our search for general manager and any other search responsibilities that might come up. That would be Commissioner Ed Lorenz and myself. For the strategic planning committee, that's also an ad hoc committee. That would be Commissioner Nancy Raring and myself. For the finance committee, which is a standing committee, that would be Commissioner Ed Lorenz and myself. For the wildlife committee, we would have the same makeup as we currently have, which is Commissioner Lorenz and Commissioner Chang Karali. For the public outreach committee, we would have,
Is that an additional one?
public outreach would be a new committee. And that would be,
Committee or an ad hoc?
that would be a standing committee, and when we discussed social media at our last meeting, the intention is that the outreach committee would include social media as well as other outreach opportunities.
Okay, so do you not want the social media ad hoc committee to exist and fold that into the standing public outreach committee?
I want to fold it in,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm gonna just take off the ad hoc part and then the additional one would be public outreach.
Okay, that sounds good. And so that would, I don't know if I already announced this, that would be Commissioner Raring and myself. Another new committee would be the Tsunami Preparedness Committee, and that would be Commissioner Chang Karali and Commissioner Matoush. And there's a report online about coastside tsunami preparedness in San Mateo County, which I will email to both of you in case you haven't already seen it. I think it's going to be helpful, and I'm very excited about Commissioner Chang Karali's Red Cross experience, helping the district in planning for tsunami preparedness. Next, we have what am I missing here?
Climate change.
Yeah, Climate Change Committee would be Commissioner Lorenz and Commissioner Raring. And finally, we have the Oyster Point Marina Liaison Group, which technically is not a committee, but it's a group, which is comprised of 2 harbor commissioners and 2 city council members from the city of South San Francisco. That would be myself and Commissioner Lorenz. So just to review, we've got the liaison group, which is a group. We've got the search committee, which is ad hoc. We've got the strategic planning committee, which is ad hoc. We've got the finance committee, which is standing. We've got the public outreach committee, which is standing. We've got the policy committee, which is standing. Did I mention the policy committee? So the policy committee would be reviewing policies, looking for things that need to be potentially updated. And my vision for that is that I don't see that as being particularly labor intensive and might only require a few meetings, but I'm not sure, so I prefer to make it a standing committee for now. And we might review that later and switch it to an ad hoc committee. And that would be myself and Commissioner Lorenz. We've got the Wildlife Committee, which is standing. We've got Climate Change Committee, which is standing. We've got Tsunami Preparedness Committee, which is standing. And that about covers it. So there's a lot of great opportunities there. At our last meeting, we voted to allow members of the public to serve on committees. There is a policy for that in place, and Brown Act training is required. We encourage members of the public to participate on committees, and members of the public even have an opportunity to chair a committee if it works out. So, you know, without public participation, these committees are not very vibrant, so we would love to see people get involved, and we very much appreciate that help. We've had some great public members help us in the past, particularly with the Finance Committee, so hopefully that will continue. Does anybody have any comments about this?
Do you mind repeating, oh, these are working, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you mind repeating who's on the Finance Committee, please?
The Finance Committee is myself and Commissioner Lorenz.
Thank you.
And I also want to mention that I don't see committees as being fixed. If there needs to be some changes on the committees in the future, you know, I think we can bring this item back. Sometimes people's schedules change and they don't have time to do it, or you know, they're interested in starting a new committee, or a committee isn't, you know, meeting, and so there's no point in having it anymore. I think that, you know, we can always decide to bring this back in the future and take a fresh look at it. The point is really to, you know, have lively committees and get public engagement going and get input from the public. And of course, the committees are just advisory to the board, so there's no board decisions made during the committee process. It's just an opportunity to do research, learn, work with staff, and sometimes get presentations that are in more detail than we have time for at our regular meetings, and then present information back to the board. So, thank you.
So I have a comment.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about the fact that we're bringing back the public into as members of our committees. A lot of reasons for that, and the primary reason is that it gives our public, our constituents, a place to have detailed conversations in our meetings, and then also be part of the folks that give direction and work with us as committee members. And that, to me, that's a really important thing that we do. My experience with our members of the public, my first year in the Finance Committee, was really great. We had people that gave us very valuable input. And I was disappointed the next year when the public were taken off of the committee meeting. So I'm very happy we're doing that. I've realized back in the early days when I started this as a commissioner, found the Brown Act just very troublesome to work with. But as time went on, I've learned to embrace it, and I've now become very fond of the Brown Act. It doesn't mean that I enjoy the trouble it causes me, but I see it as a very important part of being on a commission. The Brown Act keeps us in line, and it's super important. And as members of the public, they will, who sit on the committees, they will be beholden to the Brown Act just like we are, and I think that's also very important. It also gives people an opportunity to learn about working in government. The other point I'd like to make is that I'm very happy about some of the work that these committees will be doing, and it's an important part of what we do. We can't, as I think Commissioner Brennan mentioned, it's very difficult for us to go into a lot of detail on some of the work that these committees do, because we have a lot on our agenda, and some of the audience may not, you know, most people come here for a specific item, and if they listen to all the details of what we're doing, if we had to do it here instead of in committee, it would be long, drawn-out meetings. So that's final reason is that if we have members, public members sitting on our committees, then if a commissioner, because there's 2 commissioners assigned to the committee, if for some reason a commissioner can't attend, we will still have a quorum and we will not have to cancel meetings, which that was a big frustration for me last year because I was having problems, at least in the early days of the year, getting commissioners to be in my committee meetings, and we had to cancel. And the feedback I got from the public, I can tell you, was not that great. So that obviates that problem. Okay.
Any other additional comments? Okay, so, moving on, Commissioner Chancarelli asked that we discuss, item 11, so I'm gonna go with that next. Which is, addition of 1 deputy harbor master position. So this is, got Anita's name on it.
Yeah, I prepared this item. In this item, we are requesting to add 1 additional deputy harbor master position to our staff. Currently, our staffing levels only allow 1 person to be on duty during the night shift at Phillip Point Harbor. And to be properly prepared to respond to an emergency situation at night, we need an additional deputy harbor master position. The additional deputy harbor master position will also reduce overtime costs. Our overtime costs have gone up significantly in the last few months, and if we fill this position, it would totally offset the overtime costs, so it really is not gonna end up costing us. After a thorough review of our current staffing levels and workload responsibilities of the district, as well as overtime costs, it's recommended the commission consider adding an additional deputy harbor master position. The cost of the position is approximately $100,000, including salary and benefits. And just the policy implications, District Ordinance 2.10.02B describes the duties of the general manager as the general manager employing such employees as the general manager deems necessary for the proper administration of the district and the proper operation of the works of the district in accordance with the district's personnel policies. However, compensation of such employees and the general manager's compensation is subject to approval by the Board of Harbor Commissioners. And that's why it's coming to you at this time. And we would hire the person immediately as there's a great need, and it's a safety issue to have 2 people at night. However, in the next proposed budget, we would include it as a budgeted position. And right now, due to the vacancies in the budget, we have enough money to absorb the cost of this position.
Okay, thank you for that, and we do have a speaker slip for this. Oh, no, we don't, sorry, we don't have a speaker slip. We do have 2 more speaker slips, but not for this item. Is there any board discussion?
I would just motion to adopt Resolution 1901, amending Resolution number 3816, establishing it all. No, wait, I'm on the wrong reading. 11.
Well, I do have a question, just Anita, really quickly.
I move to approve the position.
Okay,
Is there a second on that?
I'll second that, but I do have a quick question.
Sure. Yes.
So Anita, so this 100,000, I know it's all in, right? So
Yes.
is that about the cost of the overtime costs right now? There was nothing on here about that, and
Yeah,
are we getting callbacks, forcebacks as well?
our overtime costs have gone up from, in July and August, to averaging about $2,000 a month, to September through January, averaging about $12,000 a month. So the $10,000 a month increase is gonna, more than cover the $100,000 for the year.
And so how many night calls do we get per month about?
That I don't know, we can come back to you with that
I'm
information.
just kind of curious, just to see what the expenses would be compared to the number of calls that we get, because that was not here. But yeah, whatever.
Okay,
Thank you. I have a quick comment, but is there anyone else that would like to go first? Okay, I just wanted to mention that, there has been a long history over the years of vandalism that occurs. I don't wanna suggest that it's like a huge problem, but it did come up at a recent meeting, and, I think that, sometimes, you know, I'll just say this, boats are vulnerable, and so I think having an extra person to keep an eye on things at night would be, good for public safety, so I definitely support this.
Yeah, and my questions were just so that the public would have that information should anyone ask, because I agree that it's a safety issue.
Can I just have a few clarifying questions? So the current state is, there's only one person on the night shift, or there are two people on the night shift, and then one of them is paid overtime?
Yeah, one is scheduled to be there, and then the second person that's been helping is we're paying overtime.
Okay, well then this, to me, this makes complete sense. Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no further discussion, then let's have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Ryring,
Yes.
President Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz.
Aye.
Okay, so, just for everyone's information, Commissioner Chamberlain needs to leave to catch a flight, so we'll say goodbye.
You might want to
And-
note the time, Debbie, 8:05.
Next, we're gonna go to, that's mine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's mine, thanks. Next, we're gonna go to item 9, which is consider hiring district council. This was put on the agenda at our last meeting, by direction of, everyone, well, unanimous direction of the board. And, since we've already essentially discussed this, reporting out of special meeting closed session, and this is, again, consider hiring district council. I just wanted to further report that the board already noted that, we hired new district council, effective immediately, and we've already reported that out, so just wanted to mention that. Does anybody have any comments? Okay, thank you. And next, we have item 13, which is labor and employment legal services. And it's the recommendation is to direct the interim general manager on the process for hiring labor and employment legal services. And I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Lorenz.
Okay, thank you. So in my view, this is not something we have to rush to do. We've got plenty of time to do this, so we can call for an RFP and work through this in a timeframe that makes sense for the general manager and staff. And it's important, I think, now that we have new council, to work with reviewing our employment council and legal services, and just go through that process. There may be no change, but I think it's very important to start like this. Thank you.
So that is, we don't have any public comments on this item. Is there any further discussion about it?
I would just ask council if they have a recommendation for some employment counsel to aid us on our search. And I don't need an answer tonight, if you want to just work with the general manager towards that goal.
We'll certainly do that. We'll try to come up with some recommendations to consider and maybe reach out to them to maybe submit a proposal in response to the RFP.
I think that's important, because sometimes when you put out an RFP, you don't get a very good response. So I think sometimes it's good to kind of beat the bushes and let good firms know that we are accepting RFPs. So certainly if people know of good employment counsel firms, they want to, give them a heads up that, there might be an opportunity potentially. The more proposals we get, the better, the way I see it. So is there a motion to put out an RFP?
I move, excuse me, I move that,
There you go.
thank you. I move that we direct the interim general manager to put out an RFP for employment counsel.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Can we get a roll call?
President Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
Okay, so next, we have, item 14, which is closed session. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, claim by John Schultz. Do we need a motion to adjourn to closed session, or can we just adjourn to closed session?
You can just adjourn to closed session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so
Cameraman's not ready.
I'm really sorry. Should have turned it in. Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry for the inconvenience. I just wanted to say I read the court document that was provided as part of this agenda packet. What I read was really shocking, but also not shocking in a way because as many of this board knows, ADA concerns at Pillar Point have been a major concern. I just want, I stated earlier in general public comment that there are a few things that I hope the board will look at in 2019. I hope the board will make ADA updates to Pillar Point Harbor a real priority. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now adjourn to closed session. Thank you. So we're back from closed session, and there is no reportable decision. And let's see, where are we with this thing? What items haven't we done yet? 12, we did 11,
Yeah, 8.
we got 8. Oh, yeah, okay, let's do, item 8, and that item is, location change for regular meeting of Board of Harbor Commissioners, adoption of resolution number 1901, and there is a public comment on 8. And as far as, there's a staff report, it's pretty scant. John, before I do the public comment, is there anything you want to add?
As has been evidenced, that the ability for staff to come to this location is very difficult. It's not a location that is adjacent or very close to our South San Francisco marina. We do, of course, want to maintain our San Mateo County presence, but it is not unusual from my understanding and observation for special districts to have just one meeting location, and we have now totally redone our district office with a nice conference room that we're continuing to improve. So I would, on behalf of staff, would concur with Commissioner Brennan's suggestion that we change our location for the monthly meetings to solely El Granada, the district office, and as Commissioner Brennan, being sensitive, of course, to the public and the South San Francisco and the Bayside constituency, has suggested already that we periodically have meetings throughout all of San Mateo County, not just necessarily this building, which is kind of hard to get to from time to time.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a public comment for item 8, and that's James Lee.
Good evening. I also want to support this proposed move. From my experience coming to these board meetings, sometimes frequently, sometimes not, over the past 6 years, I've noticed that there's far more public engagement on the coast side. And that's not to say that you should give up on North County, Oyster Point Marina, but it seems pretty clear that resources would be better served if you had one regular meeting space on the coast side. And as your interim GM suggested, reach out more to other areas of the county that have never been reached out to by the Harbor District. One suggestion I would make is that the East Palo Alto Library also serves as their community center. It also serves as where their city council meets. I know that when I and a small ragtag group of about a dozen people wanted to hold a community forum in East Palo Alto, it was very easy for our group to rent out that space for free. That's just one option. There's also the Bellhaven Community Center. I forget the proper name for it. I think it's the Onetta Harris Community Center in Bellhaven in East Menlo Park. That would be another great location. And also to think about locations that are near other Bayside marinas, including Coyote Point, and also the Port of Redwood City, which also holds regular meetings. So I fully support this move, and I appreciate hearing from staff that this doesn't mean that you're giving up on South City or Oyster Point necessarily, but that you're just looking to expand your outreach. And I hope that's something that maybe the new outreach committee could work on as well. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Is there any board discussion or comments?
I'd like to say, I'm in favor of both proposals, although my experience at these board meetings is quite limited. During the campaign, I heard from many coastside residents about how difficult it was to try to get over here after work at the end of the day and make it to a meeting. And specifically, if there was something on the agenda that they wanted to address, and they were frustrated that they couldn't attend the meeting. And in terms of holding meetings in other municipalities, I think that's a wonderful idea. As a Central Peninsula commissioner, I also found during the campaign that there are cities that really know nothing about what the Harbor Commission does, or, excuse me, or how the work that we do might affect them.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm in favor of maintaining the status quo like it is. There's been a lot of discussion about South San Francisco, the proximity of this location to the harbor itself. So I don't have a problem with this, but that's just me. It sounds like there's others who would like to rotate through the harbor or through the county. That just puts us further away from one of our facilities.
Well, I think I'd like to add a little clarity to this. I don't believe that we're suggesting that we will have our monthly meeting at other communities. I think the point is that the outreach committee will have meetings within the different cities or parts of the county and discuss aspects that are important to that community. And I can use East Palo Alto, if you like, as an example of that. If you go to East Palo Alto right now, they most residents probably don't even know that their taxes support the harbor district. And so the idea would be to schedule a meeting in East Palo Alto with the idea of explaining to the public, maybe at a city council meeting, get on their agenda, and explain to them why it's important for them to, at the very least, understand where their taxes go, but also ask the question, what can the harbor district do to encourage their use of our facilities, because they're an underserved community. That's just an example.
So to follow up on that, I'm going to back up a little bit. I do want to say for years, when we've had meetings in South San Francisco where we needed to agendize topics related to our commercial fishing industry, we've heard the wrath when the fishermen have to abandon their work during crab season or another important fishing season, such as squid, and drop everything and haul over to South San Francisco for a meeting. They're usually not too pleased about it because it's a real challenge for them, especially when they're not sleeping regular hours. So I think, we've heard that for years. So I just wanted to mention that that's been an ongoing concern. Also, for years, we have heard from the public that we are not doing enough to reach out to other communities throughout the county. And specifically, we are not reaching out to communities of color. We have an opportunity as a countywide special district to go and meet people that we serve and find out about their needs and find out if there's ways for our district to help them with their public access to the waterfront. So, there are opportunities for us to learn and to tailor our planning efforts around how to provide services that are going to best serve the larger community. So I think, we could approach this as sort of a research gathering process at the beginning and learn more about, what the needs are throughout the county, and then we could figure out, based on that, how to be more effective and how to provide services that benefit a wider group of people. I also wanted to mention that, there has been a lack of attendance, which John already alluded to, and I think we can see that tonight, although there is a quite dramatic storm happening. But generally, these meetings are, in South City are very poorly attended. So, if we could do things to try to increase attendance, I think that's good for the district. I also think, sort of my vision for how we do this outreach throughout the county, it's not so much that, for example, if we had harbor district meetings in, as James pointed out, in East Menlo Park, a lot of people don't want to go to a public meeting. I mean, most people have other things they need to do. They're working 2 jobs. They've, got busy family lives and whatnot. And to show up for a public agency meeting is just not really, something that they are going to make time for. So I think that when we think in terms of how we outreach, we need to think about how we do it in a way that provides something useful. And maybe we're doing some kind of water quality education at a school district, or, there are lots of different ways we could approach this and try to provide some value versus just expecting that people want to show up at one of our meetings and listen, to this. And I think, yeah, go ahead.
I have another comment. The other point is that the Harbor District owns the property at Pillar Point. We have a lot of things going on. It's a very dynamic place, and there's a lot of issues that fall in front of us there. Whereas here in South San Francisco, we do not own Oyster Point Marina. We have very little control over what happens in that area, and it's really the city of South San Francisco that has the most say on what happens there. So when we do have meetings here, most of the time, they're not at all relevant to anything that even the folks at Oyster Point Marina have in front of them. So it is, like John said, it is difficult for our staff, and we're here, and there's the only people that are here are, in general, are folks from South San Francisco that are paid staff.
Just to follow up a little bit more about outreach, with regard to, you know, work that I would hope the outreach committee might consider, you know, there are opportunities to do field trips, you know, as sort of a research mechanism, and I think going to a Port of Redwood City meeting would be on like my list of things to do, and also taking a tour of Coyote Point and learning more about the facility there. They have done a lot of recent renovations to address concerns about sea level rise. I think, you know, that's something we ought to be looking at and talking with county parks about, you know, how they're going about that work, get more informed and become more engaged in general. So those are things that, you know, I'm thinking about, and, you know, I think that I'm also pleased with the idea that our staff isn't going to be, you know, having to pack up and relocate into a location where, you know, we don't have our stuff here. You know, this is somebody else's stuff, and it's a little bit disjointed. So I think if we're in the same meeting space, we can put our, you know, we can, through our strategic planning process and through our board retreat process, I'm imagining we're gonna come up with some mutually agreeable goals and things like that. I'd love to see those things on the wall so that we don't forget what our goals are. And there are opportunities for us to have that kind of feedback in this space. So those are the things I'm thinking. So is there a motion? If no one wants to make one, I'll make a motion. So I move that we adopt resolution 1901, amending resolution 38-16, establishing that all regular meetings of the Harbor Commission be held on the third Wednesday of each month, held only in El Granada at the San Mateo County Harbor District Administration Office. Is there any further discussion? Can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Matoush?
No.
President Brennan?
Yes.
Commissioner Ryring?
Yes.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Yes.
Thank you. I think we're down to our last item. Do we have another item? 12. Oh, yeah, 12. I'd like to suggest, we haven't hit 9:30 yet, which is kind of amazing. I'd like to suggest that, I know this is not, this is an item actually that I wanted to request, but it's something that Commissioner Waring has on the agenda, but I'd like to make the suggestion that we move this item forward to the February meeting so that our council has had, now that we have new council, our council has had time to consider it. And I'm wondering if there's any support for that idea.
I would support that entirely.
Anyone else?
Yes.
It matters to me what
Makes
you
sense.
think, because it's,
No, I agree with your thinking on that.
okay, so I think let's just move item 12 to the February meeting. And John, am I missing anything?
No, I think we've covered all the items on the agenda,
Okay,
and we will put item 12 on the February 20th agenda.
okay. So would anybody like to move that we adjourn the meeting?
I'll
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Ruring,
Aye.
President Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.